I wonder if there was a time period in your life, maybe when you were going through school, you entered into a class, or you entered and you had a teacher that introduced a concept, and you just, no matter how hard you tried, you could not wrap your mind around it. Maybe for you, it was kind of like math class, and you were good with addition and subtraction and multiplication and division. But the moment they introduced letters into the math problem, that was a big problem. Like, you want me to solve for X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, no, thank you, I don't think I will, all right? Or maybe for you, you're a little bit more like me, and it was science class. Like, I was good as we were studying animals and the world and stuff like that. But then all of a sudden, biology and chemistry and physics came into play, and they want me to know about atoms and ions and neutrons and protons and any other ions you can think of, or they wanted me to know about how to H2O and AKGYK. I don't know anything else about that stuff, all right? I kid you not. Look, my senior year, I took physics class, and my younger sister took the class with me, and it had not been the fact that she was sitting next to me during that class, I would not have made it out alive. I kid you not. It's the truth. But sometimes there are just some concepts that we have a hard time wrapping our minds around. And the concept that John introduced here is also one of those concepts that is difficult for us to wrap our minds around. If I'm honest with you, I struggle with this idea as well, and it happens in the first 4 words of this verse right here that we get in John chapter 1, verse 14. Here's what it says: the Word became flesh. Like, in our minds, we might know this, but the Word became flesh is something that we got a hard time wrapping our minds around today. It would have confused the thinkers of John's day as well, both Greek and Jews alike. For the Greeks, it was this thing of the Logos, the Word, the one that you know created and orchestrated the heavens and the earth and the universe as you know it. That individual right there has now become flesh. For the Jews, the God that they had been introduced to in the Old Testament, the one that they were now, that John was saying is the Word, the one that's been there since the beginning, John is now telling the Jews, the Word has now become flesh. The Word has now become man. What are we trying to say together today? What's he trying to tell us is the fact that now God, who we know about, who created the heavens and the earth, who created the universe, that has now become man, that he is fully God and fully man all at the exact same time. That the one who has all the knowledge and all the power, he didn't put that aside. He still carried on that knowledge and that power, but now he had become a man. Now, I know that can be difficult for us to wrap our minds around with, and I don't know how to necessarily be able to fully be able to explain it, but what I do know is that it's extremely important that God became man. Because when he became man, a couple of things happened for you and for I. You see, when God became man, he became like us. When God became man, he became like us. He kept all of his knowledge, he kept all of his power, but now he took on flesh, he took on human form and everything that entailed. He would now be able to experience hunger and thirst, the need for rest. He would now be able to experience happiness. He would now know what it was like to experience loss and pain and suffering and grief and hurt, just like you and just like me. You ever gone through something in your life and then you met somebody else who had gone through something similar, and even though you may not have known each other very well, you had this instant connection that took place? Maybe for you it was, you know what, I experienced the loss of a parent, and then I met somebody else who experienced the loss of a parent as well in a similar way, and then all of a sudden we had this common bond between the two of us. Or maybe there was something that you battled through. Maybe there was a particular struggle or an addiction, and you met somebody else who had a similar addiction, and now all of a sudden you've got this common bond between the two of you. I had something similar happen earlier this year. I went to go see a doctor about my middle finger on my right hand, and I thought I had broken it years ago, and I needed to have it repaired. Turns out that the doctor tells me that's not the case at all. You actually have a hereditary disease called Dupuytren's contracture. Now, don't worry, it doesn't sound nearly as bad as what it sounds like, all right? It's not nearly that bad. But basically what it is it causes the tendons in your fingers to curl up and not be able to straighten back out. And it was only showing up in one finger in my hand. And I'll be honest with you, when I heard him say that, all right, Greg's a loser. What in the world's going on here? I now have this disease that I've never heard of that supposedly got handed down by one of my parents, and nobody in my family has it. I've never heard about it. I've never known anybody that has it before. Greg's a freak. All right? That's kind of how I felt when I heard that. And so the next week, I'm going around and I'm talking to people and I'm sharing with them kind of what's going on. And I kid you not, that week, I met 10 different people who had the exact same thing going on. And now all of a sudden, we're starting to share stories. We're starting to somebody else is saying, yeah, it shows up in this finger on my hand, and I've been to see this doctor, and somebody else is saying, oh yeah, well, I've tried this right here, and this right here is really helping me. And somebody else is saying, I've been to see this doctor, have you been to see this guy? Or we're talking about different outcomes that we may experience. And all of a sudden, these people who are sharing the same common interest, the same common diagnosis, we've got something in common, and now we're joined together. I got to be honest with you, I thought I was all alone. And then there was this comforting feeling to know that there were some people out there who understood what I was going through. You see, when God became man and he became like us, you have a God who now understands. You have a God who understands what you're going through. Going through rejection, he understands. You're going through hurt, he understands. Going through loss, he understands. This is the way that the Hebrew writer put it in Hebrews chapter 4. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin. Let us approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. In Jesus, we have an assurance that we have a God who became like us and understands everything that we face, everything that we go through, that everything that you tackle in life, everything that life has to throw at you, everything that you may walk through, you have a God, you have a Savior who knows what it's like, who understands and can empathize with what you're going through and can provide help to see you through. And He didn't just come and become like us. He came and made His home among us. We go back to the verse 14, the Word became flesh and made His dwelling among us. He came and He lived among people. He came and lived among us. He came and had a family. He came and had friends. He came and had a connection with people. People knew Him and He knew people. In this moment and in this time when the Word became flesh and He made His dwelling among us, He was no longer the God that was up there, but He became the God who was down here with us.